Hi, everyone. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you. Hi. Hi, Meg.
Okay, I see a number of people are joining us this afternoon. Where are you guys joining us from?
Singapore.
So a little bit of housekeeping, guys. If you want to be able to speak later with our guest speakers, we can either turn on your video cam or your microphones. Or if you're kind of shy, then there's a chat button in here that you can type in your questions or whatever you want to say, and then I can discuss that with our speakers. So don't worry if you're camera shy, then you can use the chat button. You should be able to see that on your screens.
Noted.
All right, let's just give a couple more minutes for the others to join. I think we can kickstart. I can see a number of people from joining us from Singapore and Philippines as well. Welcome. Welcome, everyone. Ooh, we have one from Budapest. Wow. Hello, hello. Guys, I am greeting you from an unusually sunny London as well. Hello, welcome. All right, I think we are good to start now. So welcome to this webinar session that is sponsored by TED Singapore, a travel and lifestyle community that is based obviously in Singapore. This webinar right here is, we have our special guests, which is the Lost Two, Claudia and Kaan, who will be speaking to us about how they approach travel and lifestyle content creation as a couple. So that would be a quite interesting topic for everyone as well. But before we begin, I would like to give the floor to Casey, who is the founder of TED Singapore, to give us a few words and explain to us the background about TED, what the purpose of that community is, and things of that nature. So, Casey, over to you.
Hi guys! I am Casey Arco, and in behalf of TEDS, I would like to welcome you all for joining us in our session for tonight. And thank you also, Meg, for accepting our invitation to be our host for this session. So, guys, TEDS actually stands for Travel, Explore, Discover, Shoot. This is
Sorry,
a
we're having a
community.
bit of technical difficulty here. Casey, I'm not sure your mic is on.
Hello, guys, can you hear me? Yes? Yes?
Yeah, we
No?
don't have an audio.
Yeah, I think some people can hear. Still cannot. Yes, yes. Hi, guys.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so as I am saying, TED actually stands for Travel, Explore, Discover, Shoot. This is a community where we connect like-minded people such as the curious cats and creatives. So by curious cats, we mean to say the travelers, explorers, and people who love to discover new things and places, and as well as the creatives. Like you could be a photographer, a filmmaker, a content creator, or a storyteller. So this is a community where we want to share our experiences as well as our craft so that we can together learn, inspire, and be inspired from one another. So, what we're doing currently is that we curate photographs from different people on Instagram showcasing the different sides of Singapore. It could be a building, a food, an event, or anything that is about Singapore, something local, touristy, or anything picturesque. So we also help you creatives to expose your art to the public by featuring your post or your craft in our community. So that is all for TEDs. And now we are very much excited to have this session with our one of the content creators, Claudia and Kaan, the last two. So now I think we should go back to Meg.
Hi, guys, and thank you, Casey, for that good introduction. So it is my pleasure today to introduce our speakers, which is the couple behind the blog, The Lost Two. Um, it's at The Lost Two Instagram handle and thelosttwo.com for their blog. So they are Claudia and Kaan, who have traded their 9 to 5 jobs for a life full of adventure. Their approach, and one thing that I really like about this couple is their approach to travel and lifestyle content creation is sustainable and conscious, and encouraging a conscious way of traveling. They are based in Canada, and they are joining us today from their home in Canada. So welcome, Claudia and Kaan. It's nice to have you here.
Hi, Meg. Can you hear us?
Yes, we can hear you. Okay.
Perfect. What about the webcam? Do we? I don't know how we turn it on. Can you see us?
Not yet.
There we go.
Do we have to press something to turn it on? I'm not sure what we have to do.
I think you just have to accept my invitation.
Nothing has popped up.
Okay.
I mean, we see you, but we don't.
Sorry.
Try to refresh.
Should we refresh?
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Hi, Meg. You look so pretty in there. Sunny London, huh?
I know it's not usually sunny here, to be honest. So this is a rarity.
How's our audience? Are you guys having a good time sitting wherever you are? Okay, let's go back to Claudia and Kaan.
You've been invited. Approaching something.
Apologies for the difficult.
Oh, there we go.
Hello. Are you guys?
Can you hear us?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Perfect.
Can you see us and can you hear us?
Click.
Can you guys hear us?
Yes, we can hear you.
But you can't see us. We can see ourselves in like the
can
box.
still see you.
The box has popped up and we can see ourselves. But we can't see anybody else. Oh, something just popped up. Ted's popped up, but I don't see Meg or anybody there.
Hold on.
Yeah, we're clicking on the there's icons on the left. There's a cam icon, but when we click it,
Hey.
nothing happens.
Okay.
It says our webcam is on and we can see ourselves. And we can see ourselves on the screen right now, but we cannot see anyone else.
Hold on.
Hey guys, thanks for joining us today. Sorry, this is taking some time.
Okay.
Yeah, apologies for the technical difficulty, guys. I'm sure we're all so eager to hear more about Claudia and Kaan. So please bear with us.
Should we refresh again? I don't know what else what to do here. We'll refresh one more time.
Now we can see you.
Oh, perfect. But yes. we can't see you. But if you can see us and you can hear us, that's okay. Your screen is black.
All right.
All
So
right.
we're Claudia. We're Claudia and Kaan.
I think they're gonna ask us the questions.
Right. So welcome again, Claudia and Kaan. Apologies for that little technology mishap.
That's okay.
We should have been experts by now, given all the we are on lockdown and we're facing technology every day. But
that's okay. These things happen.
Exactly.
First of all, I just want to say thank you to Meg and to Casey for putting this together for us and for having everybody here today and taking the time. I know it may be late wherever, well, some of you may be. So thanks for having us, and we hope that you're all keeping safe at home. And yeah.
Yeah, and welcome and thank you again for your time this morning / evening / afternoon, depending on where you are. So essentially what we would like to do is to have a more interactive approach to this webinar. But first of all, I know our audience is very eager to learn more about you, how two people found themselves and became the Lost Two, how you were able to form your platform, your community, your following, what is your journey with the content creation, and then on the latter part of the session, we'll have the opportunity to have a bit of Q&A with the audience as well.
Sure.
So over to you.
Okay, so how do you want to start? Do you want to start with how we met, or do you want to start with how we began the Lost Two?
I'm sure a lot of people are curious as well how you two met. So let's start from there.
Okay, sure. You want to start, or should I start?
Yeah. So we actually met online in 2010 on Twitter. So this is an era where there's only Facebook and there's only Twitter. That was the only social media. I'm sure most of you guys remember that. There was no dating apps or anything kind of like Bumble or anything that we have now. So we were both part of like a I guess, a Toronto community of people who tweeted. So we came across each other that way, but we didn't meet in person until 5 years later. So we were like,
we were just like online
internet friends.
We were online friends, but there wasn't anything. There was no romance or anything intimate like that. It was just like she would post something, I would retweet it or like it. I would do the same, and she would do the same. And we kind of Facebook introduced its suggested friends feature, which links kind of social medias together. And she ended up being on my Facebook, and then she ended up being on my Instagram, Snapchat, and eventually she was on all my social medias. And it was kind of this like, just casual, once every 3 months we would have a quick chat and then disappear type thing.
Liking each other's photos.
Like each other's photos, and then that's it. And eventually, I decided to message her and ask her if she would like to go for some dinner, and she said yes, and she came and picked me up, and the rest was history from there. So it was love at first sight.
Yeah. So we've been married 7 months now.
And we just got married in September, which is amazing. So and then we decided, so travel has always been a part of who we are. Claudia's first gift to me was a backpack, and Claudia's been traveling since she was like 17, 18. Yeah. You want to talk a little bit about that?
So I was always obsessed with travel. I loved it. I actually studied political science, so when I would travel, I'd always like look at how different countries had government institutions. I'd always speak to locals. I actually did an exchange at NUS in Singapore in 2014. So I actually lived in Singapore for 7 months. So definitely Singapore holds a special place in my heart. I'd always travel. I'd save up all my money and just like backpack my way around because that was the only way I can afford to. And then when we started dating, our first trip together was backpacking Hawaii.
So I never was really like into travel. My family lives in Los Angeles, so my travels would just be to there. And Claudia always makes fun of me and says, "Oh, you thought you traveled before you met me, and you only went to LA and that's it."
Not that that's not traveling, but he would go there to visit his family, and I'm like, no.
So Claudia really introduced me into travel, and we've basically been traveling ever since we met, pretty much every 3 months. I had a job in accounting. I was a CPA. So for those of you in Singapore, you'll know what a CPA is. Long hours, but my company was unique in that everything that we worked over 40 hours in a week, we got that time off in lieu. So in the tax season, in the busy season, working 60, 70, 80 hours a week, I'd be able to bank like 40 hours per week. So by the time the summer rolled around, I'd have like 10 to 12 weeks off, and we would take that off and just travel the world with it, taking advantage of that opportunity. Claudia worked at a restaurant, so it was very easy for her to take the time off. We started traveling back in 2015, and we literally did it every 3 months. In the summers, we'd take like 3 months off, and we did that for about 3 years. Together, we visited over 50 countries, and that's when we decided. So on our last trip in 2017, we got engaged, and at the end of the trip, and we decided that we were going to come back to Canada, and we were going to work our asses off. Excuse my language. Work our butts off, and basically save up as much money as we could in 10 months, and quit our jobs with those savings and decide to go for it. Now, photography and taking photos of ourselves has always been a part of who we are, just like travel has. On our first trip to Hawaii, we were... What's going on here? Someone? Yes. Oh, okay. We were going we were taking photos of ourselves with a tripod, with our cell phone mounted onto the tripod. So people were looking at us at all these sites like, what the hell are these guys doing?
And our tripod was meant for a camera, so we'd have to buy a selfie stick for a phone attachment and screw the mount onto our tripod.
So yeah, we had the tripod, and then we had a selfie stick attachment attached to the tripod with our cell phones on it, because we didn't have a camera. We just love travel, and we love taking photos of ourselves to show our family and friends back home with all these amazing places that we were going to. And so that's kind of where this spark for content creation kind of came from. For 3 years, we were taking photos of ourselves just to post those pictures on our Instagram. And now I kind of look back on it and say, damn, I wish we had a good camera and we started a little bit earlier than that, because that would have been really helpful. We have to go back to all those destinations now and retake those photos.
But being said, our some of our earlier photos that kind of went viral were actually taken on a cell phone. I think we had a Samsung Galaxy 5 back then, which is like about 4 years ago. And then what we would do is, so we would work really, really, really hard. Monday to Friday, on Monday to Thursday, we would hit overtime. So in Canada, overtime is more than 44 hours work. And then you get paid time and a half after 44 hours. So Fridays we would make overtime because we'd work so much during the week. And then Saturday and Sundays, if we weren't working or picking up extra shifts, we'd be sitting at home watching YouTube tutorials on how to use Lightroom and Photoshop and how to take photos, good photos on a cell phone. So then we would take those photos from our trips, and I remember we would spend hours editing the JPEGs on Lightroom, which is really hard because you cannot get the perfect colors or clarity from a JPEG cell phone photo, especially the cell phones like that were around 3-4 years ago. But we would do it, and we did see some, a bit of success with that. So that definitely kind of encouraged us to continue.
Yeah, and so we decided that we came back to Canada that we were going to give this content creation thing a shot. So we came back, we saved as much money as we could. We set a deadline for ourselves that we were going to leave our jobs and we were just going to see what we could make of this. It's always important, guys. If you're passionate about something and you have to take a risk to make something happen, there's nothing comes without sacrifice, and we're still working on it. But this is something that we're passionate about, and we're hungry for it, and we want to make it work. So
it was scary. We had great jobs. We had a great apartment that we were renting for an unbelievable price. We did get a lot of backlash from our parents. Our parents were like, "Are you sure this is a good idea? This sounds crazy. Like, why can't you just work and save and buy a house, have children?" So it took a lot of convincing and getting them to come around, because it's not like you start making money right away from this career. You have to rely a lot on savings, and you also have to be prepared that it might not go where you want it to go, and you have to be prepared to risk all those savings and risk everything.
And that's where it comes with starting any business. If you're starting a pizza joint, if you're starting for people in Singapore, a hawker stand, like, it doesn't matter what it is that you're starting, there's always that risk of failure, but you need to basically overcome that by your passion for that thing needs to be greater than your fear of the failure. And if you're truly passionate about something, it's always worth the risk of failure, because you never know what could happen if you don't try. So that's kind of our story, Meg, and we'll hand it over to you for some comments in the next questions.
Cool. And let me just say, Kaan, when you said you were a CPA and you work long hours, I am also a CPA, so I would just like chuckle in there internally.
That's hilarious.
I can totally relate.
Well, Meg's in the UK, but
UK. So not too bad then in the UK. We heard Singapore is insane.
Yeah,
I worked with a couple of Singaporean CPAs, and they told us about the crazy hours. But here in Toronto, the hours were absolutely insane.
Oh, they were till 11 p.m. and then the Singaporean was like, "Oh, normally we work till 2 a.m."
Exactly.
Overnight.
That's a long hours indeed. So I guess what I'm personally curious about is like, what is the turning point for you guys? So like, what made you decide like, hey, we're gonna quit our jobs, leave everything, drop everything, and just focus on what we love to do, which is traveling?
So we kind of touched on that, but yeah, it was basically that we always loved, as we said, we always loved taking photos of ourselves, and for about 3 years we were taking these photos of ourselves, and obviously Instagram was always there on the side. Instagram was still our platform to share these moments and these destinations, but it was more on like a personal level with our families and friends back at home. And but we did follow a couple of bigger travel bloggers and whatnot, and so that kind of inspired us. We said, okay, we're kind of doing what these guys are doing anyway. So we can see that they're getting sponsorships out of it. They're getting brand sponsorships. They're getting flight sponsored, they're getting hotels sponsored. And we said, like, we're doing this work anyway, and this is something that we're passionate about. So why not like try and make something of it? Because we can see on Instagram people that are making a career out of it, just like many of the people in the audience right now may be looking at us and saying, like, maybe sitting at that point where they're deciding, hey, like, should I be doing this or should I be doing this? So 2 years ago, we were in that position. We had our full-time jobs and we had this thing that we were passionate about. And what really pushed us over the edge was our passion for photography and what we saw other people doing. And we saw that it was possible. And so that was the turning point for us back in 2018.
That's great. And I think with this type of environment, right, with all the content creators, it's very good to have a sort of differentiation, like to what other people are doing, as you mentioned. And what really struck me when I looked at when I look at your platform is your conscious and sustainable way to traveling. And I know a lot of the people in the audience would like to pursue that as well, or in their own travel. So what does sustainable travel mean for you, and how can we practice that in our own travels as well?
Yeah, so sustainable travel, it comes in many different forms, and obviously travel itself is not the most eco-friendly hobby or whatever you want to call it. So there are ways to make it definitely more environmentally friendly and also sustainable. So things that we personally like to do is we always support local, whether it's going with a tour, whether it's going to a restaurant. We always do our research ahead of time and make sure that we're supporting the local community, because they need that money and our support and our platform more than the big businesses do. To give you an example, we were in Sumatra in Indonesia, and one of the things on our bucket list was to trek with orangutans.
Wow!
And we had so many options, but most of the companies there that operate those tours are big, massive companies that operate these kinds of tours all over the world. They're multi-billion-dollar companies. So by us using them and promoting them or whatever, it takes away from the people in that community. And once you start to dive into the different work that people are doing locally, it opens a whole new realm of different things. So we did lots of research, and we found a guy who was basically running these treks out of his home, but he was using the profits, obviously, first to feed himself and his family, but anything that he made beyond that, he had a English school, and we're talking about a very rural village in the middle of Sumatra, middle of nowhere. He had a little, English classroom where he would teach English to the village children for free. And so that is something that we 100% would get behind. And so for us, that is part of what sustainable travel is all about. Now, there are obviously more than just supporting local communities. For instance, flying on airplanes. Flying on airplanes is obviously a massive detriment to our environment, and we cannot do our jobs without airplanes, unfortunately. But we try to offset those detriments through different mediums, such as carbon offsetting, which basically you pay to offset. There are websites out there that calculate how much emissions you have emitted through your travels, and you pay to offset that, and that payment goes to the planting of trees and the planting of things. So there are different organizations out there that try and help offset your emissions by doing something good in return. So that's another way that we travel consciously. And obviously another thing that we do is we try to clean up the environment wherever we are. Do you want to talk about that? Like beaches and...
Yeah, so when we're based in Bali, we frequently do beach cleanups, roadside cleanups. Just here a few days ago, we were doing kind of a roadside cleanup by where my parents live in Canada, trying to help up with that, supporting recyclable efforts in the countries that we are, you'll always usually find a small company, sometimes a big company if you're lucky, that does recycling programs. So you just pay them a little bit extra for your recycling.
Yeah, so that's kind of the ways that we travel consciously. And another thing that we do is we try and support brands and work with brands that kind of fit our mission, which is, sustainable travel. So the hotels that we stay with, we partner with hotels that are doing things that to help the environment. For instance, they've eliminated plastic bottles from their rooms and they're using glass bottles.
For example, we recently worked with the Six Senses, and they have a amazing mission that we can definitely get behind, and that's to have an all sustainable hotel. So a lot of the Six Senses, not too sure about the ones in Singapore. It's a huge city, but I'm sure they have like little rooftop gardens. The one that we worked with in Bali had a garden where all their garnishes and everything for their a lot of things for their kitchens were grown on site. They'll have animals like goats and chickens, goats that will eat the scraps left over, the organics, chickens for the fresh eggs and also for the scraps. So we really get behind hotels like that.
And we do a lot of research.
Yeah.
We do a lot of research into our travels to make sure that we are making the right decisions, because we have such a big platform. If we don't do something that we say that we do, then there could be a lot of backlash with that. So we do spend a lot of time on this.
Yeah. So research is really the key. And thank you so much for sharing some of the examples of what you do, because obviously travel has been more accessible now to the middle class and the society as a whole. And yeah, it would be good if for you to use your platform to encourage those types of behaviors when we travel. So that's really good. So thank you, Claudia and Kaan, for sharing how the Lost 2 has been formed and what you do. I think it's now time to open the floor to the audience to ask some questions. We have a few already here in the chat box from Hitendra with a question: what is your motivation and how do you keep going with that motivation?
Yeah, so hi, Hitendra. Thanks for tuning in today and for spending some time with us. For us, our motivation is this is something that we love to do, and this is we get asked every single day, how can I do what you're doing? How can I become an influencer or whatever you want to call them? And before anything else, the answer needs to be that this needs to be something that you're passionate about. It cannot be forced, because people will see right through that. So it's very important to just be yourself, but you have to be passionate about it. So if photography, if content creation, if all of that is something that comes natural to you and it's something that you really, really, really want to do, then you're going to do it, right? But it cannot be forced. So for us, this is something that we love, and we wake up in the morning with different visions and different ideas, and we're motivated by that. And we're also very motivated by the people that are in the community that we are part of, the influencer community, people sharing ideas, people sharing creative things. So when we wake up in the morning, these are the things that kind of motivate us and we try and get better at our craft. Look, we're photographers, but the next thing that I want to get into is videography, and that's a whole different ball game. So this is something that I'm passionate about. This is something that Claudia is passionate about, and this is something that we wake up motivated every morning to kind of learn a new skill and do something different with.
But also, it's important to know that you're going to be doing this 24/7. You're going to be waking up in the morning thinking about this, because at the end of the day, it is a job, it is a career, and it's something you have to wholly dedicate yourself to. So we found when we were working 9 to 5 that we didn't have the time to fully pursue and grow our account, create content. Like when we started our account, when we were working full time, we just did not have every moment of the day to dedicate to this account because, well, we were working. So this is something that you also have to love. It's important to love it because your whole life revolves around it. You're documenting almost every second of your day. So you have to have that passion to kind of fuel that motivation to keep going. And that's not to say that there are some mornings where we wake up, or there are some instances where we're questioning ourselves, and I think that's completely normal. There are a couple of days where we just break down and we just want to cry because this hasn't worked out. This project that we've been working on for so long hasn't worked out. What do we do? So I think that passion is what kind of drives us inside and be like, okay, well, if this didn't work out, let's try this approach. Or if this company didn't want to work with us, well, there's not much you can do. You can just re-strategize your proposal and send it off to the next company. So that's where also I believe that motivation is important to keep you going. You face a lot of rejections. You face all the good times you face. You also face the bad times, and you need to have the right mindset and motivation to keep going.
But that motivation comes from within. It comes from passion. So I wouldn't be talking about this like I wouldn't be talking about accounting like this. I can promise you that.
So it's passion, hard work, and resilience. So like not giving up when things do not go your way. That's really inspiring. We have another question from AR. It's more on like, how do you work with brands, and what is the collaboration process looks like?
Yeah, hi AR. So there's a lot of aspects to it. So first things first, it's really important to treat your business as a real business. So you want to have a media kit. So that's one of the things that we said that we wish someone told us, because we had no idea how any of this works. There's not really a manual for this. There's not really a manual that you can read or a course you can take. The first thing that we found out that we were really grateful for is to create a media kit.
That's step one, guys. Media kit. A media kit is like a resume that basically showcases what you're able to do. And just like any job, if you have nothing to show for it, then create something to show for it. So if you don't have a history of brands that you've worked with, that's okay.
That's fine.
A media kit, there's no kind of set structure for it, but perhaps your media kit should be more focused on what you can offer to a brand. Now, just because you don't have 100,000 followers or 200,000 followers doesn't mean that you cannot secure partnerships. You just need to be more hungry for it. So the process is develop a media kit, and in your media kit, you're going to showcase everything that you can offer. So you're going to have some, if you're a photographer, you're going to showcase some of your photography. If you're a videographer, you want to have links to some videos so that you can showcase what you're able to create in terms of videography. How else can you help them? Do you have a website? Does that have a platform? Does that have a reach? So you have to really think about like, what can you offer this brand that they would be like, wow, you know what, I'm going to pay you. And it's not just followers. Followers is one aspect of this whole thing. Followers is just so the brand pays you so that they can reach a large audience through your platform. But there's so many other aspects to this. Like, as I said, photography, videography, website, blog, whatever.
Like
so
when we started off, everyone's in the same boat. No one starts off with 1 million followers. Everyone starts out with a couple thousand, a couple hundred, whatever. So what we decided to do in the very beginning, we knew that we were still developing our talents and skills. So we did a lot of work on a barter exchange basis, meaning we would get either a product for free or whatnot, and we weren't getting paid. So because we had saved so much from work, we were able to relocate to Bali, where the cost of living is cheaper, and we were able to work on a barter exchange basis with companies for the first few months until we got paid.
You can still do this with a full-time job. Like, we got our first collaboration with a watch company with 200 followers. They sent us a couple of free watches. Great.
Wow.
So they've sent us some watches. Now we're going to take some content with those watches, and we're gonna do the best that we can. We're gonna take photos of these, the watches out in nature or whatever. Come back, edit them, and send them off to them, and hopefully they'll like them. And if they don't, I'm still gonna put those in my portfolio as a brand that I worked with. So there are a lot of companies out there that will be willing to work with you, even with 100 followers or 200 followers, to send you free products. So this all starts off with on a barter exchange basis. Like, no one's really gonna pay you right off the bat. So you have to be willing to accept the fact that you won't be getting paid for the first little while.
Just like with any business, you're not cutting yourself a paycheck at the beginning. And once again, that's why it's important to treat this as a business. When you open up that pizza joint, that hawker center or whatever, you're not making a paycheck for the first few years normally. In Instagram, as an influencer or content creator, you hope you're going to start making money sooner, and you usually do. You usually break even We were breaking even maybe
It's
a few months.
it was long, a little bit.
It was a little bit longer. However, if you haven't found any brands to work with yet, or you don't have the opportunity as of yet, a great way to expand your portfolio is literally to take things around your house, little things that you have, and just take photos of them. And that's the content creation aspect. So we would do that a lot. We would take photos of things that we had bought ourselves, and we would just take great photos of them, us using them, set up, kind of practice our photography. Sometimes we would set it off to the brand to see if they like the photos. Maybe they'd want to work with us on a barter basis. Maybe they'd want to buy the photos from us. So there are things to do if you're reaching out to companies and they don't want to send you anything. You can always practice, take those photos and add that to your media kit.
So let's talk quickly about the whole process. So you have your media kit. So then you're going to find companies that align with your vision, or someone that you really want to work with, or someone that you think that will help your brand. And you're going to try and find the media contact of that company. So maybe that means reaching out to their Instagram email, or that means reaching out to their receptionist, or that means reaching out to their general email and be like, hey, like, we're looking for someone in the media division who deals with partnerships, blah, blah, blah. Would you be able to put us in the right direction? So once you have the contact information of the person that handles media requests, then this is where comes your pitch. So you're going to say, look, hi, this is my name. This is what I do. This is some examples of my work. Here is how I can help you. Would you be interested in working with us? And to be honest with you, this is a sales job at the beginning. Brands don't just walk in and they're like, hey, work with us. That comes later on. But at the very beginning, 100% of the time is you sending out hundreds and hundreds of emails to brands that you want to work with, and also at the same time receiving hundreds and hundreds of rejections.
Yes.
So for 100 of the emails that you send, 98 of them at the beginning may be rejections, and that is definitely demotivating. And we've had instances where we're like, oh, F this brand, or screw these guys. Why don't they want to work with us? But
or like, let's just go back to Toronto. This isn't working out.
But that is part of the process. That's part of the process, and this is a sales job. But again, if you're hungry for it and you're passionate about it, we're here to tell you that it does work out in the end. And once you started to grow a community of people that follow you for your passions and for your interests, then brands start to recognize that, and they start to approach you because they see a fit with your brand. So that's kind of how it goes. I hope that answers your question and helps you with how this whole thing works.
Yeah, that's really insightful, actually, because a lot of people think that you can only work with brands with the number of followers that you have. But the concept,
that's 25% of it. The other 75% of it is
how good
talent.
Is your pitch?
It's how good is your pitch? How do you sell yourself? We know people that may not have the best content, may not have a lot of followers, and they are making way more money than us because the way that they present themselves and they pitch themselves,
it's amazing,
is better than we are able to do it.
So like their focus, it just depends what your focus is. If your focus is like landscape photography, videography, content creation, that's fine. Then you use your Instagram as your portfolio and build on that. Our friends that we're talking specifically, they're not the greatest at photography. They're not the greatest at videography or content creation, but they are amazing salespeople, and they just completely crush it and do well. So I think you don't have to be talented at everything. I think that's what we were kind of struggling at first, because we were like, should we focus more on the blog? We have a lot of friends who have great success off their blog, and then we realized we're not. We want to use our blog. We cannot update it daily. We're going to focus more on content creation side, because there's only so many hours to the day. So I think it's important to kind of find your niche within this industry and kind of pursue that, because you will never be able to do everything. We're only recently starting to get into video creation just because there's only 2 of us, and we did not have enough time to focus on video and photo and Instagram before.
Yeah. That's really insightful. And yeah, thanks for the concept of media kit. We will now consider that for our audiences who are aspiring to be content creators as well. We have another question.
Yeah, and I think Meg, for you guys, you could probably find a template or something online and kind of work together with Casey and put together something for your followers that would allow them to kind of see what one of these things look like.
Yeah, that's really great. Another question from Sane here. How has this journey helped your relationship? And do you also encounter any conflicts or arguments like a normal couple? And how do you resolve this?
That's a great question. So the biggest challenge with this as a travel couple is that we are business partners and lovers at the same time. And because we're working on this as our full-time jobs, there often is blurred lines between relationship and business. And it requires, if you're a couple, it requires you to be very meticulous about how you separate the two, because there's no like you go to work and then 5 o'clock comes around and it's like I'm checking out and I'm going home. You're constantly thinking about business. Business doesn't end at 5 o'clock. Business is at midnight. Business is when you wake up in the morning. Business, it's just business, business, business. So all of a sudden, relationship and business are kind of like clouded together. So you need to be very good, and this comes with practice. We knew nothing about this when we first left, but it's so important to set time aside. That means spending time with each other, whether that's watching Netflix, whether that means going out for a dinner date, whether that means having a cheese and wine night. Finding ways to make it interesting is super important because you're with each other 24/7. So you want to make sure that the relationship is still interesting, still surprising your significant other with gifts or surprising them with smaller gestures like cooking them a dinner and having a phoneless dinner with them. So these are things that are super, super important. Maybe it's a spa day, to schedule in time with your significant other that is not Hi
Sorry.
guys, sorry, did we where did we cut off?
Oh, now you're back. Yeah, you were just talking about the dates, and then we were all tuning
Oh.
in, and then you got.
Sorry, I don't know when we cut off, but
I think it is easier to cross the line, and especially because the line is so blurred. I mean, there are certain things that you would say that you would never say to your coworker that you would say to your husband when you're arguing. And I think it's really important that when you're arguing about work, that you see them as a coworker and that you fight in a respectful, you argue in a respectful manner.
it needs to be creative. It needs to be constructive. So we definitely do have arguments, guys, but I will say that 95% of the conflicts are creative clashes. Different visions about photos, different visions about where we want to take our business, and the problem with that also is that it could spill into your relationship, right? You may be mad with her, or she may be mad with me because I'm so adamant about doing something one way, and then you don't want to watch Netflix with me later on because of how upset you are with me for that reason, right? So this is what I'm talking about, the blurred lines. And it's never perfect. Even to this day, we've been doing this for 2 years. It's still not perfect, and it's something that we have. It's the biggest challenge in this thing as a travel couple is that. So that's a great question. But
and we are together 24/7.
Finding time apart is so important, right?
Yeah.
Like we schedule time for ourselves. Like me time is also very important. If Claudia wants to watch a Netflix show on her own, then I have to respect that, and she's going to watch Netflix for 3 hours while I go do something else. So these are very important things that you need to kind of integrate as part of your schedule.
Yeah, I do think that's a great question as well. And we can all learn from what your experience, because a number of our people in the audience as well do travel with their partners.
Okay.
So yeah, it does help, like, when you say you have to have some boundaries, or you have to have some me time and to have an open communication. I think that's really important, especially when you're on a different place together, right? So when you're traveling in an unfamiliar place, you're out of your comfort zone, and it would be good to have each other for support. And that kind of nicely transitions to the next question from Seha. That you guys have each other for moral support. However, a number of people do travel alone as well, not with their partners. What's your advice for them?
So I would say that the best thing with the internet is that you can connect with people online, and I would definitely say you can rely on that community. For example, when I used to travel alone as a girl, I would hang out in hostels or stay in hostels to meet other people, but then I'd also join travel community groups online to make friends and meet up with them in real life. And that also transitions to if you travel as a content creator by yourself, there is an incredible online community, and if you just reach out to those people, they're super supportive and you can do great things. A great way to reach out to those people is maybe if you're, for example, staying in a city or an area alone, if you go through Instagram geotags and you see someone posted a photo from there today, be like, hey, I'm here too. I'm traveling by myself. Would you like to travel together? Or would you like to, meet up or things like that? So I would definitely utilize your online presence to kind of make friends and find that support.
Yeah, Instagram's a great place to do that. And a big part of growing your audience and growing your account is collaborations and collaborating with other people, because then you can leverage off of their audience and they can leverage off your audience. And that way you're starting to build and create a closer knit community. So this goes for couple travelers and solo travelers. Reaching out to people through Instagram in a place that you may be, or a place that you're going to go or thinking about going even, and reaching out to them and asking them for advice. You'd be surprised at how many people are willing to just share some information with you, or how many people are willing to meet up with you. You can generally tell a lot about a person through their stories and through their Instagram feed, if it's someone that you want to hang out with, or if that's what you really want to do. And then when you ultimately hang out with them, you share them in your stories. They share you in their stories. Their audience sees who you are. Your audience sees who they are. And then your audience starts to follow them. They start to follow you. And so by collaborating, you're starting to build an audience of people who are kind of interested in the same things, because you have tailored who you're hanging out with. So the chances are the people that are following them like them. And if they're willing to hang out with you, they're probably like you as well. So that's a great way to not only meet new people, but also start to grow your own community.
It's like hitting two birds with one stone. You make new friends, and then you grow your network. That's a really good advice. I think we have room for, I think, three more questions. Seha says thank you, by the way. So we have another question from Casey, and I know you guys get these questions a lot. I've had a chance to look at your Q&A yesterday as well, and this is one of the questions that was asked in your Q&A. So a lot of people are curious, because you're traveling together, obviously, but of course, both of you are in the photos. So how are you able to get these amazing photographs? And do you bring teams along with you to take these amazing pictures that you have on your Instagram?
No team, it's just the two of us. So we heavily rely on our tripod. So we set up our tripod. One of us will get in the frame. Usually me, Kaan sets up the camera to make sure all the settings are right. And then we put it on timer and he runs into the photo.
So our camera has a mode called interval timer mode. Now, a lot of cameras do have this nowadays. Sony's definitely have it. Some Canons have it. It's basically a time-lapse feature that basically programs that is basically a setting in the camera that allows the camera to just keep taking photos on a rolling basis, every second, every 2 seconds, every 5 seconds, whatever it is. So I set the scene exactly how I want the picture to look on the tripod. Claudia will stand there so I can have a reference as to where we're going to be standing, where she's going to be standing, what we're going to be doing. I set the timer to, I set the camera to go, and then I just run into the photos. So the camera is sitting on a tripod. We are a two-man team. We do everything ourselves. Now we're thinking about how we can expand our team, obviously, because once you start to grow as a business, you obviously have to expand your personnel. Like we're probably always going to be doing the photography and videography aspect of it, but you know, as we've talked about, there's a whole other side of this business, like emailing, pitching to brands, dealing with collaborations and stuff that takes a lot of time out of our day. So when you're first starting off, yes, like we use a tripod, and we know so many solo traveler girls and guys that are taking photos of themselves the exact same way. And it's kind of daunting at first. You know, you're setting up a tripod and you're figuring out how you're going to pose and stuff. And sometimes there are people looking at you and you look like this crazy person in public, flapping your dress, or lifting the girl and lifting Claudia up in the air.
You have to get used to that. You will probably attract an audience. If there are people around, they will be staring, and you have to get comfortable. Yeah,
but that just comes with practice. Yeah. Like we're so awkward at first, and
we still are. When we see people looking, we're just like, oh, please look the other way, because we feel awkward, like standing up, or he's lifting me up, or I'm flipping my dress. I'm sure people think we're crazy. But over time, you just have to keep repeating.
You just tune those people out, and you just keep doing what you do. But that's something that's kind of like it's still that those nerves don't go away, and we still deal with that on a daily basis.
And back to the timer, it will take us, it's not like we get it right on the first shot, because the first shot that Kaan runs in, let's say it takes 30 photos, we'll look at the photos, we're like, oh, Kaan was a little bit too much to the left. And
so we have to go do it again and again and again. So sometimes
again.
Sometimes the photo may take 10 minutes, sometimes it may take 30 minutes, sometimes it may take 40 minutes.
But our average would probably be about 30 minutes per photo.
Yeah.
Wow. And can I just say, guys, the talent of like setting up the tripods like in the right angle, that's really something. And it's amazing that you're a two-man team. We would never have guessed that based on the photos that you have.
Thank you.
We have a question here from MG. Is there a particular brand of tripod that you usually bring when you travel?
Fantastic. So I just did some stories on this the other day, and
we got a new tripod.
So we've owned multiple tripods in the past, and that's not a good thing, because we always went for the cheapest tripods. And we can tell you from experience, don't go for the cheapest tripod, because the tripods there are three main types of tripods. There are tripods that are made of plastic, there are tripods that are made of aluminum, and there are tripods that are made of carbon fiber. And they also go from cheapest to expensive in that order. We've owned plastic tripods, we've owned aluminum tripods, and we've always gone for like the cheaper ones. And we can confidently say, do not do that, because you will spend
more in the long run.
Because not only will you spend more on the tripods, but your camera sits at the top of that. And sometimes we have our tripods sitting in the water, in the ocean. You know what I mean? On the beach, on the beach, and waves are coming. So you have, $1,000, $2,000, $5,000 camera sitting on the top of this tripod. You're putting your investment in the stability of the tripod. So you want to make sure that your tripod is protecting, however expensive your camera is, you want to make sure your tripod is protecting that. So we've always gone for aluminum tripods, but recently, a couple days ago, we just upgraded, or we just bought a new tripod because our aluminum one broke, and we got a carbon fiber tripod. Carbon fiber is a much lighter metal than aluminum. It's also a much more sturdy material than aluminum is, which makes it the perfect travel tripod. But for those reasons, because carbon fiber is a lot more harder to manufacture, it's also the most expensive type of tripod. But because of how lightweight it is, and if you're a backpacker, if you're someone who's conscious about weight, which we most definitely are.
I think it's important, like if you're going to be a travel content creator, you will be hiking sometimes an hour, 2 hours of all of your equipment to the place that you want to take photos. So you want to have the lightest equipment possible, because after that first initial 30 minutes, 1 hour, your back is going to kill. Your camera is heavy. There's not much you can do about that. Your drone's going to be heavy. There's nothing you can do with that. Once again, however, you can control the weight of your tripod.
So with particular brands, we just got a newer. It's NEEWER, and you can find that on Amazon. I'll type the name here. It's a newer carbon fiber tripod. It was about 120 Singaporean dollars. Manfrotto is the best tripod manufacturer on the market. If you can afford a Manfrotto, I definitely recommend getting one, but they're about $300 to $400.
So that will be probably our next bigger purchase. But for now, we needed a tripod, so we tried Neewer, and we are loving it so far.
Yeah, that's really great. And speaking of tripods and self-timers, RK has a question, and I think you've touched upon this a little bit in your answers earlier. So with your style of photography, composition does play a big role. How do you deal with other tourists and people around you, especially on crowded places?
Great. So you want to answer?
Yeah. So that one, we actually take most of our photos at sunrise because most people are still sleeping. So if
you're on vacation and you're in a place that, you know, say you're in Bali or Morocco, whatever, most people are on vacation there. They're not there for content creation. So if you go at sunrise, the chances are you're going to eliminate 90%, 95% of the people that are usually there for touristic purposes. And the people that are there are probably going to be photographers doing the same thing as you, and they're much more accepting to taking turns or whatever it is you're photographing. Be like, hey, do you mind if we share the time at this location? Like, would you like to? Can we take a photo of you? Would you like? Could you take a photo of us? Or would you mind if we get in this photo for 5 minutes while we take our picture?
Which is also a great way to make friends. We've met so many of our friends at like 5:30, 6 a.m. because we're all taking sunrise missions. We're all taking photos together. So that's the only time you'll see other people. You'll have people there. Some places like Europe, it is harder to shoot at sunrise because there's always like, I don't know, there's always tourists who are waking up for sunrise in Europe. We personally don't when we're traveling, when we're on vacation. So with that, it requires a lot of patience.
So yeah, patience. And if it's impossible, or if you get a photo, if you're taking a photo and there happens to be someone in it,
in the very background,
you can normally eliminate most people in post composition in Photoshop. That's something that you guys are going to have to probably YouTube on how to like do object removal and stuff. But as long as the person that is obstructing you isn't like very big in the frame, which would make it like ridiculously hard to Photoshop them out. If they're just like dots in the back of the image, you can normally eliminate them using Photoshop. So we do a combination of both. Sometimes we go to places where it's absolutely impossible, like we're at a cathedral or a massive church, and you know, it's just
there's always delivery trucks delivering them.
There's just delivery trucks, people, whatever. Then you're gonna have to rely on post composition.
There's also if you're not using a camera yet, there's also cell phone apps like Snapseed that you can use to kind of take people out if you're not comfortable using Photoshop yet. But yeah, sometimes we do Photoshop people out.
Okay. Can I just ask, guys, what time do you wake up for these sunrise photos? I'm really curious.
It depends, right? It depends.
I think the earliest we've ever woken up, it depends when sunrise is.
It depends on sunrise, because in Canada right now, sunrise is like 7:30 a.m., but in Bali, sunrise is at 5:50 a.m.
The earliest we've ever woken up, I think, was in Estonia, in Tallinn. I think we woke up at 2:30 because sunrise was at 3 a.m.
Wow, guys, more power to you. I admire that. So in the topic of Photoshop and editing apps, we have a question here from Casey. In this digital world, especially in the game of social media, where a lot of people can edit what they can show to the public, how can we practice, or what is your advice on how we can practice authenticity and continue to inspire others to live an authentic life?
Okay, so we never take photos and edit them to the point where it would not be, you would go, like we've been to places based on photos that we have seen, and we know people that have been to places based on photos that they have seen, and they've got there and they're like, wait a second, this isn't here. That view isn't here.
That waterfall isn't here.
That, you know, or that mountain isn't there, whatever.
A lot of times, so there's another side where there's like creative artists, they're digital artists. So we have a friend who's super talented and he takes photos and he merges them together, but he always adds a disclaimer that like, hey, this place doesn't exist. There was a viral photo going around recently, and it was the coast of Hawaii with rice terraces. and waterfalls, and people are like, oh, this is an amazing place, and it doesn't exist. So the worst thing is you don't want someone traveling and getting to a place and it not existing.
So if that's who you are and you're a digital artist, or you're someone who's like, photoshopping things that are not there, it's always important to disclaim that, this doesn't exist, because people spend a lot of money to seek out these views. People pay for tour guides, people pay for flights, and when they get there and they're not there, then that could be, we feel really bad about that. So we always showcase the places how they are, and we tell the truth. If something's been photoshopped, we don't hide that. If someone asks us, like, our most recent photo is a photo at a waterfall, and one of the questions that we got is like, how did you get it so empty? And we were honest about that. We went 5 separate times to that waterfall to get the conditions that we wanted for that photo, because it is a very popular photo, popular waterfall. And at the time of day, to get the right conditions, it's flooded with tourists. So
because you can't do waterfalls at 6 a.m. because there just won't be enough light, so you won't be able to see it. So you have to go a little bit later, closer.
Well, no, the waterfalls are better when the light's low. But at this particular waterfall, it was inside a cave, so the lighting was good at like 10 a.m. But that's when all the tour groups arrived. So, but people asked us, how did you get that photo? And we're honest with them. We don't say, we're honest with them. We went 5 separate times, and that's kind of the effort that you're going to have to go to sometimes to get the perfect photo. And that's the effort that we go to get those photos, to show them how perfect those places are without people, etc.
Yeah, and that's really great. So personally, I've seen one too many photos with, like, as you've said earlier, Claudia, that, wait, this doesn't exist. This building is not here with this angle. So, like, there's a lot of fabrication, especially on social media. So I think, your advice is good when you said, keep it as it is. Except when that's really what your style is. Keep it as it is. Make the revisions as little as possible to keep it authentic. So that's really great, guys. We have another question from AR and Zane. I think this is kind of interrelated. So, as content creators, is there a pressure of showing up to your followers every day? And how do you deal with the pressure? And at the same time, Zane has asked if, any bashers or like any criticisms that you get online, how do you handle the pressure with these individuals as well?
So there definitely is a lot of pressure to show up to your followers every day. You want to keep things consistent but fresh and new. And as of right now, just because we didn't have a tripod this past month, we had to keep relying on older photos that we've taken. We haven't taken any new photos in Canada yet, and people are kind of asking us like, "Hey, we want new content." So it is sometimes your creativity is challenged. You take a photo and you think it's great, and other people are like, "Oh, this is horrible. This is basic." We get messages a lot where people are like, "Oh, your content is corny."
Or is becoming corny, whatever. So we do get people that bash us and hate us, but that's just something, again, that we overcome with time. The more that you grow, the more that people are going to be out there to try and get you on the internet. And we all know that the internet is full of trolls people behind their phones and laptops that can say whatever they want without kind of having to deal with any repercussions for saying those things. And
you just have to grow a thick skin and kind of remember that it doesn't
appeal to everyone. Like the stuff that we create, the stuff that other people create doesn't appeal to everyone. And that's something that you just have to accept, right? You're not going to please every single person with your content. And some people may not like it. Some people may like it. And that's just something that we've had to deal with. And we kind of learn how to filter those people out. If someone sends us a negative message or comments anything negatively on us, we simply delete the message and don't respond to them, because it's not worth our time.
Yeah. I would say we are lucky because we delete when people send us like hurtful messages when it comes to like our not our creativity. We understand that's constructive criticism at times, but when they send messages like hurtful in terms of like of who we are as people or our physical appearances. You do get that quite a bit because you are putting yourself out there, and you have to be prepared that there will be trolls who come and criticize you and try to put you down. We're lucky because we delete those messages for each other. So if I see something hurtful that someone posted about Kaan,
I'll delete it immediately.
I delete the messages, and he deletes the messages for me, so we don't see it. So we are very fortunate, but we never engage. Like, you're not gonna, if someone tells you, you know, you look a certain way or you're ugly, you can't take that to heart. You have to remember that that's more reflects on who they are as a person than who you are, and you just have to keep going.
Exactly. And this kind of experience like really builds your character, right? And there are people out there whose sole mission in life is just to bring others down. So it's not going to be worth our time. Yeah.
Yeah, you got to think there's a lot of people sitting at home right now, bored on their phones, and they'll do anything just to get some attention. So that's how you just got to see it. And
we don't give them attention. It does hurt. Like that, you know, you're human. You can only take so much. But we just ignore it. We don't engage with them. We have some people who just send us like the most pointless messages to hurt us, and we're like, well, but that's all you can do. You just keep going, right?
That is so true. That is so true. And I think I'd like to close the Q&A section of this webinar with a thematic around this coronavirus pandemic. So obviously we are all impacted by quarantines, lockdowns, us not being to be able to like leave our homes and, you know, not being able to travel. So what is your advice on the content creation community? How do you still engage on your social media? How do you create content without leaving our homes?
So we found that we found that people right now are more engaged on our stories than they are on our posts, because we are a travel account. Everything that we've been showcasing on our feed has been destination based and hotel based and stuff like that. And we do plan to kind of transition that to like home life and whatnot. And it's going to be a very like significant change to what our followers are used to seeing, and we don't know how they're going to respond to that. But we don't really have any choice. B, you always have to take a chance and see what happens. But right now we're finding that most people are engaged much more on our stories. It's much more on a much more personal basis, because people can relate to that. So we have been showcasing what we're doing at home in quarantine, literally just cooking food and playing games and playing video games and just talking about what's on our mind. Maybe we're in the yard doing some yard work, or so. And you know, you'd be surprised that people are just curious to see what you're doing. And we're finding that most people are much more engaged on that. They're asking us questions. They're asking us for recipes. They're asking us, you know, hey, why don't you try this? Why don't you try that? Whereas on our posts, you know, it's we're still trying to figure out our post thing. But right now we're seeing that the lifestyle thing is actually working out really well. So we're going to play around, I think, on our feed with a little more different things than you're used to seeing. It's not going to be waterfalls and mountains and hotels and stuff. It may just be photos of us here at home in bed or doing some acro yoga or whatever.
Yeah, we look forward to seeing more fitness and cooking posts from you guys. I know there's been a lot of that going on recently based on your Instagram stories.
Oh,
well, I think that was
yes. Yeah, and we find that people are loving it, so we're gonna keep doing that.
Yeah, very nice. Look forward to it, guys. So I think that's the last question that we have that we have time for. So before we kind of say goodbye to our audience and end this session, just want to say thank you very much for sharing your time with us today, Claudia and Kaan. You've been very insightful in learning about how the Lost 2 was formed and how it began. It's really inspiring. We've learned today that you met through social media 10 years ago. It has now gone full circle. You have social media as your career now. So it's really inspiring. Yeah. And I'm sure a lot of our audience feel very inspired as well to create more content with or without this pandemic.
Yes, and we just want to say thank you, Meg, for having us, and thank you everyone who's still here and tuned in for the last hour and 15 minutes. We know it's been kind of long. We just want to say we're the Lost Two, and if you guys ever have any questions about anything, whether it's content creation, whether it's about brand collaborations, pitches, building your website, building an audience, whatever it is, our DMs are always open, and we're always willing to have a quick chat with you guys. So yeah, shoot us a DM if you have any questions on Instagram. You can also find, if it's a longer question or query, we have our email link there on our Instagram. You guys can always shoot us an email. Don't feel intimidated. We're two regular people, and we're always willing to help. That is our sole mission with this platform, is to give you guys value, and we're going to keep doing that.
Thank you very much. And if you haven't already, please follow at The Lost Two on Instagram, and you can look at their blogs as well at thelost2.com, where they are posting more of their more verbal content. So thank you, Claudia and Kaan, again, and yeah, we'll keep in touch.
Thank you.
Alrighty, guys, that's it for today's session. Before you guys dial off, I just want to say thank you to TED Singapore for making this event happen. My apologies if we had some technical difficulties earlier. We'll make sure to take that into consideration for the next webinar that we will have. Don't forget to follow TED Singapore on Instagram. It's your lifestyle and travel buddy in Singapore. And yeah, thank you very much for attending today's session. Keep safe, take care, look after yourself, and yeah, we'll stay connected. Bye, guys.